They said music had boundaries, language, genre, culture. But that night, under the blinding lights of a global stage, one young man from Manila proved that a soul in rhythm needed none. The crowd came expecting rap. They left in silence, not from boredom, but from awe. In that moment, when his fingers danced over the tabla and his voice melted into verses of pain and pride, something in the air changed. It wasn't just a performance, it was a confession. Every beat was a heartbeat, every rhyme a memory of struggle, and every echo a cry for belonging. His name was Rian Cortez, a 24-year-old street performer from Quezon City. Orphaned at 14, he had grown up in noise, street horns, market chaos, the clatter of empty plates. But within that noise, he found rhythm. Beside him through the years was Miko, his childhood friend, the kind who saw light in Rian even when Rian saw only shadows. A quiet soul, Miko recorded Rian's first street performances, uploading them to the world that had never heard of him. And somewhere far away in the neon chaos of Mumbai lived Arjun, retired tabla master who stumbled upon Rian's viral video. The boy's hands, raw and untrained, played not by rule, but by heart. Arjun saw in him something rare, the fusion of pain and purity that only life itself could teach. So when Rian walked on stage at Asia's Got Talent, the world didn't know his name, but his soul was ready to speak. The lights dimmed, the crowd murmured, and his heart whispered the question that had followed him his entire life. Can the world understand your pain if it comes in a language it doesn't speak? As his fingers touched the tabla and his voice cracked the silence, everyone leaned in, not knowing they were about to witness the kind of performance that changes how the world hears music forever. Rian Cortez's world was small, a rented room above a bakery in Quezon City, where the air always smelled of burnt bread and dreams that never rose. His mornings began before sunrise, when the city still yawned in silence. He'd brew instant coffee, place his old tabla on the window ledge, and tap out rhythms while watching jeepneys crawl through fog. To others, it was noise. He wasn't famous, not yet, but there was something in him the world hadn't taken: hunger. A hunger to be heard, to be understood beyond the walls of poverty and the labels that followed him like shadows. Music had been his only constant. He'd started rapping to drown the chaos of his neighborhood gunshots, shouting, the cries of children with empty stomachs. Each verse became a shield, each rhythm a whisper of survival. The tabla, though, was his heart. It was the only thing left from his father, who had once played it in a forgotten band. Whenever Rian touched it, he felt less alone. He had a strange habit before every performance. No matter how small, he'd close his eyes and tap 3 times on the tabla, whispering his father's name. It wasn't superstition, it was remembrance. But beneath his calm, there was restlessness, a quiet ache that no applause could cure. He'd scroll through his phone at night, watching artists from around the world get millions of views, wondering if the world had space for someone like him, someone whose songs carried both Filipino rhythm and Indian soul. He wasn't chasing fame, he was chasing validation, to know that his struggles, his loneliness, his sound meant something. And when the email arrived one morning inviting him to audition for Asia's Got Talent, he didn't smile. He just stared at the screen, heartbeat trembling like his tabla skin, and whispered, maybe this is the stage where my silence ends. Fame wasn't Rian's enemy, fear was. The fear of being unseen, unheard, forgotten, like the echo of a drum fading into traffic noise. He carried that fear everywhere, stitched into his silence. Beneath his confident stage presence lay a heart bruised by rejection, by the cruel laughter of those who said music was only for the privileged. His childhood had been a long stretch of hunger and noise. His mother had died when he was 9, a quiet woman who sang lullabies over the hum of city rain. His father, a tabla player in small bars, followed her soon after, leaving Rian with nothing but a cracked instrument and a world that didn't care. He spent years trying to balance between 2 identities, the rapper the streets knew and the musician his father had raised. But no one wanted both. Producers told him to drop the tabla to sound modern. Others said his rap was too poetic, too soft. Every opinion chipped away at his confidence until he began to wonder if his music belonged nowhere. Even his best friend Miko saw the change. The tabla gathered dust in the corner, and his notebooks, once filled with lyrics, lay untouched. He took small gigs at bars just to pay rent, rapping two drunk strangers who never looked up from their phones, but it wasn't just career fatigue. It was emotional exhaustion. Rian felt trapped in a loop of almost discovered, almost understood, almost enough. His soul screamed for expression, but his heart was tired of the world not listening. One evening, while sitting alone by the Pasig River, he watched his reflection tremble in the dark water. For the first time, he thought of giving up. Music had been his only family, but even family can stop feeling like home when it never loves you back. That night, as city lights flickered like fading hope, Rian whispered to himself, maybe silence is easier than being unheard. But destiny had already written a new rhythm for him, one he couldn't yet hear. The night Rian almost gave up was the same night life decided to whisper back. It came in the form of a message, a notification glowing faintly on his cracked phone screen. The video Miko had secretly uploaded months ago, one of Rian rapping beside a river while playing the tabla, had somehow gone viral. Overnight, it had crossed 1 million views. Comments from strangers flooded in, people from India, from Europe, from places he'd never even heard of. They didn't just hear his music, they felt it. For the first time, the world wasn't telling him to choose between rap and rhythm. It was begging him not to change a thing. This is what music sounds like when pain finds peace. Rian didn't cry. It wasn't pride, it was purpose. Then came the email, an official invitation to Asia's Got Talent. The producers had seen his viral video. The same fear that once silenced him now whispered louder. What if you fail when everyone is watching? For days, Rian hesitated. The weight of expectation pressed on him. But Miko reminded him who he was. Not a celebrity, but a storyteller. You don't need to win, he said. That night, Rian sat cross-legged on the floor, the tabla before him. He tapped it gently, the sound echoing through his empty room. He felt his father's presence, his mother's voice, and the heartbeat of every dreamer who had ever been told they weren't enough. And in that moment, he knew this wasn't about fame or success. It was about reclaiming his sound, his identity, his soul. As dawn broke, Rian packed his tabla in an old cloth bag, grabbed his cap, and whispered to the morning light, "Let the world hear me now." When the stage lights dimmed and the echoes of Rian's final beat faded into silence, something remarkable lingered. Not applause, not noise, but stillness. The kind of stillness that only comes when hearts are full and words fall short. That night, the judges didn't just hear a performance. They witnessed a life translated into sound. Every scar, every loss, every unspoken prayer turned into rhythm and rhyme. Rian didn't walk away with a trophy. For the first time, he didn't feel like he was chasing validation. He'd already found it, not in the judges' praise, but in the quiet realization that his music had finally reached where it was meant to, inside people's souls. He learned that the world doesn't always understand talent immediately. Sometimes it takes one brave voice to remind others that art isn't about perfection. It's about truth. And when truth is spoken through the heart, even silence becomes applause. In the days that followed, people from every corner of the world began sharing his performance, calling it the sound of unity. He received messages from children learning tabla, rappers inspired to blend cultures, and lonely souls who said his music gave them hope. Rian smiled every time he read those words, realizing something profound. The pain he once hid from had become someone else's healing. Life had not changed overnight. He still lived simply, still practiced every morning by his window. But now, the air around him felt lighter, freer. He no longer played to be heard, he played to remind the world that even the most broken rhythms can create the most beautiful songs. And so, his journey whispered a lesson for every dreamer who has ever felt invisible. You don't need the world's permission to be extraordinary. You only need the courage to be yourself, completely, unapologetically, and fearlessly. Because sometimes the loudest voices are born from the quietest souls.